Hello, everybody. We are going to get started here pretty quickly. Thank you for coming. We are recording, just FYI, so that we can share this with the lovely people at PEG TV. Let's get a few more people in the room. Do we have all of our candidates here? This is something I want to make sure of. Is Courtney here?
I am.
Oh, okay. It says Matt.
Oh,
that's where you fooled
it's a
us.
lie.
Okay, let me change it. You want to go ahead and change your name?
Yes, except I don't know how.
Okay, there should be little dots by your name in the right corner, and there's click that and rename. You got it.
Oh.
Amazing.
I just did it for you, Courtney. Hopefully that's spelled right.
No, you did. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dan. All right, everybody, let's go on and get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Mia Schultz, and I am the Education Justice Organizer for Rights and Democracy, who is sponsoring this event. Rights and Democracy is a nonpartisan grassroots organization and is a member-led grassroots organization working across Vermont and New Hampshire. Our mission is to shift the political landscape through electoral and community organizing to ensure that the values and needs of our communities guide the policies of our government. And we are doing this by building a popular movement to advance human rights, dismantle economic inequality, racism, and sexism, and build a true democracy. Welcome, everybody, to the Rutland City School Board Candidate Forum for 2022. We will go over our agenda and some technical pieces. First, before we hand it over to our moderator for the night, so let's go over that agenda. This format also of the forum will be moderated, and each candidate will be given the same amount of time to speak about themselves, which will be 2 minutes in the beginning. After each candidate has introduced themselves, they will be given 1 minute to respond to a set of prearranged questions. My colleague Dan Fingus is here. He is the official timekeeper, and he will alert you along the way when your time is running out. There will also be an opportunity for our attendees to interact with our candidates here. So feel free to throw in your questions in the chat, and we'll start collecting them as the program goes. So we will have we're doing the welcome and introduction. Our candidates will introduce themselves. We will do the moderated Q&A and take questions from the audience. Let's talk a little bit about our MC for the night, our host. Michelle Fountain is a resident of Rutland City and a board member of the Bridge to Rutland, which is a nonprofit organization that supports asylum seekers in the Rutland area. She is also in her 16th year teaching English at Woodstock Union High School. So welcome, everybody, Michelle Fountain as our host for this evening. Michelle, take it away.
Thank you, Mia, and hello, everyone. Let's get started. So for this year's town meeting day, it'll be held March 1st in Rutland. And this year we have for the Rutland City School Board 10 candidates running for 4 3-year seats. We have invited all the candidates to attend this forum and are fortunate to have 5 of the 10 attending tonight. Those candidates are Sarah Dunges, Mary Beth Lennox, Courtney Elizabeth, Marisa Kefauver, David Searles. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And just to give all the candidates a heads up, you're going to introduce yourself and you're going to have 2 minutes to do that. And later on, we'll reduce the timing of questions to 1 minute. So, and we'll rotate the candidates through so that different people begin for each question. So for this first question, please introduce yourself and state why you are running for the school board. And our first person to answer this question will be Sarah Dunges. So Sarah, please introduce yourself and let us know why you're running.
Hello, my name is Sarah Dunges. I'm also running under Sarah Atkins Dunges. I grew up in New England. I was the daughter of a National Guard soldier, and he was stationed here in Rutland in 1996. So that's when we moved here, and we have just loved Rutland ever since we moved in. I met my husband here, and we got married right here in Rutland at Calvary Bible Church 20 years ago, this September. I have been a stay-at-home mom with my kids for most of their lives, and being a stay-at-home mom with my kids has had me in their schools, talking to their teachers, talking to their peers, and I've always been like that mom that's always at the school, and the kids are always like, "Hi, Grant's mom. Hi, Sam's mom," and that's been really fun. And COVID has been really horrible because I haven't been able to do that in their high school years, and I've really not enjoyed that. I have been really bummed this past couple years. I'm not an out front person. I don't like being out front. I don't like being in the spotlight. But after I watched these kids go through COVID and school and how hard it was for them and how much the teachers worked for them and rallied them on, I really feel like I need to get involved, and I need to help the teachers, and I need to help the students, and I just want to make it a good experience for everybody. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. Next up for introductions is Mary Beth Lennox. Mary Beth?
Hi there. Great. Thanks for the invitation to tonight's forum. I'm Mary Beth Lennox Levins. I'm actually have a hyphenated last name, Lennox Levins. I moved to Rutland 13 years ago and fell in love with it. Knew it was absolutely the place that I wanted to call home and raise a family. But I began my career in education about 28 years ago through my work in athletics. I do believe in and have seen the transformative power of education. I understand the work of educators to be that labor of love that we all know about. But for the last 10 years, I've been a member of the faculty over at Castleton University, where I both direct and I teach in our sport management undergraduate program and our athletic leadership graduate program. I think over there, my colleagues and students would tell you certainly that my bar is high, but my leadership and teaching are rooted in compassion for my students and rooted in mutual trust and respect. I'm running for the board because I do want to help foster a compassionate, inclusive, and healthy learning community where all of our children feel respected, safe, and cared for, and they feel ready to pursue their goals and dreams. I do pledge to serve all students. I will support our hardworking teachers. I will empathetically listen to the concerns of all the stakeholders, but particularly those teachers and the staff, and of course the students. I do have qualities and skills which I believe will significantly benefit our district and most importantly the kids. I'm a solution seeker, someone who I think works pretty collaboratively with all sorts of folks with diverse perspectives. In seeking solutions, I know I'm really meticulous at thoroughly researching relevant information. It's what we do as educators for sure. And then tying it all together to serve the mission of the organization. I don't shy away from conflict. I don't look to bring it on, but I don't shy away from it because I know it's actually a really important step in creating cohesion in an organization. And lastly, really service to my community is ingrained in my core. I'm a youth soccer coach, for a former Girl Scout troop leader, the hot chocolate and check-in parent at Nordic ski practices. I'm an official volunteer for USA Hockey, a former youth minister, a swim team volunteer, a booster club president, a lead volunteer at my daughter's school, and hopefully one of the next commissioners of the Rutland City School Board. That's it. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth. Next up, we'd like to hear from Courtney Elizabeth. Courtney, can you share something about yourself?
Sure.
Thank you again for hosting this. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. So my name is Courtney Collins. Elizabeth's actually my middle name. And Rutland's my home. I was born here, I grew up here, and I chose to create a family here. I care deeply and love this community, and I'm really excited to bring my skills to the faculty, to staff, and most of all our students. As I said, I grew up here and I'm a product of Rutland City Schools. I made some of my lifelong friends here, and all the schools set me up for success. And I graduated from the University of Vermont in 2006 with a bachelor's degree in science and nursing. And now I'm a manager in the emergency department. And as a manager in the emergency department, I very much value teamwork and empathy and approaching important decisions with a pragmatic lens. And I'm really excited to use those skills for the board. My goal as a member of the Board of Commissioners is to ensure that our schools are a safe place for children to feel welcome, valued, and supported in achieving their goals. I'm committed to helping the staff pursue modern curriculum development, build a safe and inclusive environment, and help all our students meet high standards. I'll work to ensure that teachers have the resources they need to pursue their passion in teaching. It is essential that the faculty and staff feel valued and encouraged because they are essential in their role in our schools and the community at large. So I'm just really excited to hopefully be part of that development in our community. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much, Courtney. Moving on, let's hear from Marisa Kefeber. Marisa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight, Rad. It's good to be here. My name is Marisa Kefeber, and I'm running for the school board. I grew up here in Rutland, and I went to school at Rutland High, and I returned a few years ago from where I thought I would live the rest of my life out west, and came back here to Rutland because of the community, because of the network here of people. And now I live close to downtown with my fiance and our dog Kippa. And I teach 5th grade at Rutland Town School. And as a teacher, I'm well versed in the day-to-day needs of learners and educators. I know that the people who are in the schools every single day are the ones that we should be listening to. They know what our learners need. And they're the ones that can help make a positive learning environment for everybody. I think that my experiences with the functional processes of a school will help provide a valuable insight as we strive to support all of our students. And as a school board member, I hope to support teachers and staff and to foster compassion and understanding in the whole Rutland City's schools community. Our schools, as we've seen in the last few years, are essential parts of our community, and we need to make sure that they're functioning well. So I look forward to utilizing my experiences as an educator and an advocate and a community member to help serve Rutland. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Marisa. And now David Searles. David, you tell us about yourself. Do we have David on?
Is David here?
David, you need to unmute so we can hear you. He is listed as being here. David, can you hear us? We would love to hear about you. If you're there, you can unmute. Well, maybe what we can do is move on to the next question. And if he comes back, we can check in and bring him back for the introduction. One last time, David, are you there? Do you want to unmute? Okay, we'll move on. So question 2. For question 2, we'll again rotate through different people. And just to give you a heads up, Mary Beth, you'll be the first one for this. And the question is, what do you see as the role of a school board member? So Mary Beth, we'll have you take that one first. What do you see as the role of a school board member?
Thanks so much for that question. Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks so much for that question. I think that's such an important question for us to answer. I see the role of a school board member really first to certainly support the kids, to support the children, the students, ensuring that they have what they need, whether they are academically needing additional support or whether they need to be challenged more. I think it's important to make sure that we are supporting those kids regardless of what their needs are. I do think it's really important for the board to listen to the teachers and the staff to see what's really going on, boots on the ground type of thing, and really hear what they think might be needed in order to improve the educational experience of the students. I really can't state that enough, for sure. Supporting the students, supporting the teachers, supporting the staff. And again, I do see that is our role. It's also our role to be up on
That's time.
what is recommended. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. And my fault, I forgot to remind you all that the questions now are 1 minute, where your introduction was 2. Just want to check back one more time. I see David. David, did you want to pop in and do your introduction? Are you available for that? You are muted right now. David Searles, you're muted right now, but if you'd like, you can do your 2-minute introduction now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
The
Tell us
modern
about
world.
yourself.
Well, I bought a house in Rutland about 20 years ago. I was a landlord, and I got out of the landlord business. I moved into the house, and my children, my daughter went to the high school and graduated from high school a number of years ago. Throughout her educational career, I became involved in special education advocacy. And I have been a bit of a gadfly to school districts and to the state regarding special education issues. In fact, the school district I moved from in New York State, I had to take them to federal court over their inclusion, lack of inclusion for special education. We won that lawsuit and we moved to Vermont. And we no sooner got to Vermont than pretty soon I had to take the state education department to court over funding of independent schools. And so I've shied back from getting involved in the local school district, but this latest controversy I see over the naming of the sports team kind of got me pulled into the system, that this polarization of the two camps of has to be one name or the other, and on that question, I come right down in the middle. I think it's a disgrace that so much energy and time is spent on that. But that'll serve as my introduction.
Great, thank you, David. Appreciate that. Now we'll go back to that question 2, and the next person to answer question 2 is Courtney Collins. And again, the question is, what do you see as the role of a school board member? And you have 1 minute.
For me, the role of the school board is to first and foremost support the children, and support them into whatever success means for them, and assure that the students have the resources that they need to be successful. Also that the faculty and staff also have the resources they need to be successful in teaching their students in a safe, inclusive environment. I see us as an advocate and an ear to the teachers and faculty to assure that we hear their needs and that we do everything we can to meet them. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate that. And next up, we'll hear again on that same question to Marisa Kefeber.
Thank you. I want to echo what Mary Beth and Courtney have said. I think our role as a school board member is to be a liaison between students, between faculty and staff, between the school community. We should be the champions for the students. We should be seeking out policy changes that support inclusion and support access to education for all of our students. We should be collaborating with taxpayers, with parents, with our students. They're the ones that know best. So we should be seeking out the people who know best.
Great, thank you, Marisa. Next, David, we'd like to bring you back for this question. What do you see as the role of a school board member?
Well, a school board member, has a fiduciary obligation to the entire school district. I say fiduciary, not only financial, but promote the mission of education. To me, I don't think there's much more in the world more important than education, public education especially. And to that end, I just want to note that there are 4 seats open in this election and not one of the incumbents chose to run. And so there's got to be a reason for that. And it seems that the animosity, I've tried to watch several school board meetings and frankly, I had to turn them off. Hopefully I'll be able to promote some sort of middle ground, because I know what it's like to be the parent on the other side, speaking at a very high voice. But anyway, that's my minute.
Great, thank you very much, David. And now, Sarah Dunges, what is your take on the role of a school board member?
Thank you. I'm a perfectionist, so in thinking about running for this office, I actually went and looked up what a school board member does, because that's what I do. And then I asked a couple people, and pretty much what I've also heard from the people here, being an advocate for the students, actually talking to teachers. I want to get into the school. I want to talk to the teachers. I want to hear from the teachers what they need, what they wish they had, what they'd love to have. And talk to the students. I love talking to kids. I talk to kids all day long. I have teenagers in my house all day long, and I love to talk to them. So I just want to hear from the teachers and the students and see what I can do to help. So.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Now we'll move on to our third question for the evening. And this question is, what do you see as the biggest challenge your school district is facing right now, and how will you address it? So starting us off this time will be Courtney Collins. Courtney, what do you see as the biggest challenge the school district is facing right now, and how can you address it?
For me, I think one of the biggest challenge that the school district is facing is a financial trouble, and with a lack of faculty. So, and that's a really big problem. And I don't necessarily know how we can fix that. But I'm certainly dedicated to doing everything I can to help promote the school and support budgetary things of the weighted pupil study. I think would be a really important thing for the financial piece and for teachers to get the resources that they need to be successful in teaching.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Courtney. And Marisa, what do you see as the biggest challenge the school district is facing right now?
I think one of the biggest challenges that our school district is facing is that we're not setting everybody up for what they need. I think we have students who have experienced a lot of trauma and are not necessarily getting what they need every day. And I think we need to work to provide that. I think we need to work to provide teachers with the training to provide that support. I think we need to work to challenge the students who need challenges. We need to provide support and economic resources to our community, or to our teachers, to our faculty, to our schools. I think we could set our school system up for success better than it is now.
Great, thank you, Marisa. Next up, David. What do you see as the biggest challenge a school district is facing, and how will you address it?
Well, the biggest challenges are always the biggest opportunities. The school district, the schools are microcosms of the community. And the problems of the community are going to be the problems of the school. Depressed economic conditions, the ability of people in the community to pay the tax burden, and the resources that are available, and the various distractions of everyday life that seem to take away from the educational experience. So no great surprises there. It's just something we have to learn to deal with.
Great, thank you, David. And next is Sarah Dunges. Sarah, what do you see as the biggest challenge the school district is facing, and how will you address it?
I agree with what Dave said, that the schools are a microcosm of the community. I know one of the biggest challenges we are facing is COVID. And as we're pulling out of COVID, we're trying to recover. We're trying to get normal life back, whatever normal life looks like. So our kids are trying to figure out what school looks like now and what equipment they need to have to be able to do school effectively. If they have to keep being out, they need to be able to be online. If they are going to be in the school, they have to be in a safe school. So just being able to set us up to navigate out of COVID or into the new COVID or whatever it is, we just need to find a way to navigate that safely and make our kids feel secure, like we actually know what we're doing. So that's what I think.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Mary Beth, what do you think this district needs to be working on, and how will you address it?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a complicated. My number one is, I think, a little complicated. Safety. I think safety of our students is I know that's on the mind of parents. That's on the mind of our students. But I think it is related to what Sarah just said, and that is COVID and it's mental health. And so I think mental health is related to safety, and it's related to disparity in social and emotional learning skills. And so how we address that, I think it goes back to resources, and it maybe goes back to what Marissa said in terms of funding and budgeting, and ensuring that our teachers have the resources that they need, and the schools have the resources that they need to address mental health issues, behavior interventionists, having school psychologists. I know there's a shortage of school psychologists around the state, but working with the district to address mental health and safety, really as it relates to that disparity in social and emotional learning that our students have.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you.
We'll move on to question 4. And question 4 asks, reminds us that public schools are the heart of the community. What services do you think our district schools might offer community members? And first for this question will be Marissa. So Marissa, what do you see as services that schools can offer to our community members?
I think as a teacher, I've seen the realities of the services that schools can provide all of my teaching career, but I think a lot of the public noticed a lot of these services during the pandemic, especially. I mean, schools should be a safe place for students to go to make friends, to learn social skills, to learn transferable skills that will set them up for life outside of school. This is a place for parents to feel comfortable sending their students every day. This is a place for community members to rally around. The sports teams, the debate teams. Schools are something for the community to feel proud of and to feel fortunate to be involved in. And I think during COVID, we did a really great job of propping up schools and understanding and shouting out that importance. And I think that I'd love to see that continue, that we schools are essential, and the services that we provide are numerous. And I think we should keep counting on those and keep touting them.
That's time.
Great. Thank you, Marisa. Now we'll move on to David. So David, again, what services do you think our schools should provide to the community?
Well, I mean, this isn't any great surprise. The schools are supposed to provide, the service is supposed to provide is education. And education is not an easy thing. If it was an easy thing, we wouldn't need schools. The purpose of education is to confront each person where they are intellectually, with the information that they have, and to challenge them to learn more. I mean, the schools are like a telescope into the universe. They can be used for that. And that's the service that the school is to provide, is to open up this great pathway to knowledge, and hopefully a bit of wisdom as well, but mostly knowledge.
Great. Thank you, David. Next up is Sarah. So Sarah, again, with schools as the heart of the community, what services should our district schools provide to the community?
I am really a firm believer in Stafford Technical. I have seen my kids go through it. My daughter's in it right now, and I see the teaching children real world technical proficiencies, and they can take that knowledge, like how to build an engine, and work down the street at the mechanic. And then you have people from the community working in the community, building up the community. And I just think that kind of thing is really important, getting kids to learn things that they can immediately take and learn and have a living and build up the community while they're doing that. I just think that's super important, and I've seen it work really well. And I'm really passionate about Stafford Technical. So I think that's really an important thing that we need to keep supporting.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Next is Mary Beth. Again, what do you see as services our district schools should provide in the community?
Great question, for sure. I think one of the foundations of any strong and wonderful and tremendous community like we have here in Rutland is absolutely our public school system. I think school systems create citizens, right? They create adults and citizens. And I agree with Sarah, and that sometimes that means kids go to Stafford Technical and find their dream there. And sometimes kids go on to college and find their dream there. And so I think the service that the school district can provide is creating citizens who don't feel pigeonholed into one area or the other, but to really be empowered to find their dream and then become productive and helpful citizens to the world who are accountable and really, like as David said, share their wisdom and maybe their knowledge too. But I think really it is about helping the students find their spot, because then that can create a stronger community. And I do think schools can absolutely help create cohesion in a community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth. Courtney, same question for you. What services do you think our district schools should provide to the community?
I'm really proud of the services the school already provides the community. The school provides lunches and even weekend meals for kids that don't have the capacity to provide those. The families don't have the capacity to provide those on their own. And so I think the school has done a tremendous job of being more than just a school, like being not only a safe place for kids to grow and learn, but to have supports that they might not have at home. And I think with the resources we do have, we've done an amazing job. And to echo off what my fellow candidates have said, we promote and provide opportunity for learning and develop amazing students that become successful adults and give back to our wonderful community. Thanks.
Thank you, Courtney. Now we'll move on to question 5. Question 5 is, how do you see yourself responding when conflict and or differences of opinion arise between school board members? So starting us off this time will be David Searles. David, how do you see yourself responding when conflict or differences come up?
Well, it's hard to say until it hits you, doesn't it? But there is a solution to every problem. Whether it's the solution we want is not always going to be the thing. We are there primarily as models for the students. And it's not our job to try to resolve things with emotionality, just as we don't want the students to try to manage their education, their educational day full of emotionality. So we just have to work towards what our job is, and that is, like I said before, as fiduciary for everyone in the community, and that the elevated temperatures in the room don't help that.
That's time.
Good. I'm done.
Thank you, David. So Sarah, question is up for you. Again, how do you see yourself responding when conflict or differences of opinion arise between school board members?
This is a very difficult situation, but I remember something my dad always said when we were little was, you were given 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you need to listen twice as much as you talk. So I'm a firm believer in listening, and you really need to listen to people and hear what they're saying, and also leave your ego at the door. Like, we're not on the school board to push what we want in the world. We're on the school board to help teachers get what they need to help students be successful. So if we're in an argument, we need to remember that we are fighting for other people, not for our pride. So I think that's really important. And I think that helps to bring the temperature down if you are successful in doing that. So.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Mary Beth, how do you see yourself responding when conflict or differences of opinion arise between school board members?
All right, thanks for this question. I take a lot of pride in my ability to handle conflict. I create debate in my classrooms at Castleton purposefully, because I think debate is healthy. I have debated topics like mascots in my classroom for 10 years in the sport management world. But you listen, and I tell my students to listen. Exactly what Sarah just said. Listen more than you talk, at least half as much, right? So I think differences are extremely healthy, and I think they, if handled correctly, build cohesion. I firmly believe in that. If you can get through the tough stuff and get on the other side of it, I think we can be a better, stronger school system. But we need to research and educate, and come to a conclusion together. Whatever the issue might be, curriculum, whatever the difficult things are, safety, social emotional learning, whatever it might be, I think finding our commonalities. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth. Courtney, how do you see yourself responding when conflict or differences of opinion arise between school board members?
So I think the beauty of diversity in opinions is that we're not going to see things the same way. And so I think what's truly important is to hear each other and to be respectful of each other's opinions and listen with the intent to understand and not just to speak and choose a side. I think with all the division that's been happening recently, we don't get anything done, right? There's no ability to get things done if we can't come together and find a solution. No, it may not be one way or the other, but if we can come in the middle and collaborate, that's where the magic happens. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. Marisa, how do you see yourself responding when conflict or differences of opinion arise between board members?
This is a great question because we've seen it happen. I think that ultimately, I would want to remind myself and others that we are on the board because we have the same common goal, and that's to provide a safe, positive learning environment for our students. Ultimately, if we can trace any conflict back to the students, then hopefully we can find a solution that works for everyone. These tough conversations that lead to conflict are important. They're how we create change. They're how we make progress. They're how we move forward. And in finding those solutions, I think it's really essential to seek out the experts in whatever it is that we're discussing.
Great. Thank you, Marisa. And thank you, everyone, for your thoughtful responses. We're going to move on to question 6. And question 6 is, what role do you think parent voices should play in decisions about schools and the school district? And starting that question off will be Sarah. What role do you think parent voices should play in decisions about the schools and the district, Sarah?
Thanks. This is a really good question. And since I've been a parent, I have a little bit of expertise in this area, I think. I think the main role of parents in this situation is to prepare their children for the school. They need to be taken care of. They need to have their mental health. They need to be fed. They need to be given the tools to be able to work through disagreements and be able to advocate for themselves and talk to their teachers, and then be able to go home and communicate with their parents, and then find communication tools that work. And if the parents can prepare their students to be able to attend school and be able to be in these situations and be able to talk to adults and be able to talk to peers, I think that really sets them up for success. And it really helps the teachers be able to do their jobs effectively if the children are ready for school and prepared for school. So.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Moving on, Mary Beth, what role do you think parent voices should play in the decisions about schools and the school district?
Yeah, great question. I definitely feel very similarly to Sarah, and that I think, number one, a parent's role in education, maybe not in decisions yet, but in education, is to support their kids, give them the love and support that they need to be as successful as they can possibly be while they're at school, right? Give them the tools they need at home to go in and kill it every day, right? Kill it every day. So parents are stakeholders. We have to listen to all stakeholders, right? I think that they have, there is a place for every stakeholder to provide input. And I think that's what we as school board members look to do, is gather input, right? Just like I said the last time, research and educate, right? Researching is also asking parent opinion and maybe seeing what they have to say. Does that mean that what they say is the ultimate decision? Maybe sometimes, but not all the time, right? We take all the information we can from all of the stakeholders, and then it's our job to put it together into a decision that absolutely benefits all students.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth. Thanks. Courtney, what role do you think parent voices should play in decisions for the schools and the school district?
I love this question because I'm a parent. I think the parent role is similar to what my fellow candidates have said, we're preparing our children for the world. And as far as their education, we need to set our kids up for success so that when they get to school, they're ready to learn. So we're supporting their social, emotional, educational guidance that we get from their teachers, and trusting our teachers that they know what they're doing better than the parents do as far as teaching, and trusting in their judgment and supporting them with our students so that we can collaborate together and have success for their kids. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. Marisa, what role do you think parent voices should have in decisions about our schools and school district?
I also agree with our candidates here. I think the role of a parent is to provide a loving and caring and supportive environment to set their children up for success emotionally, academically, socially, and ready to learn in whatever capacity that means for that student. I think parents should be in communication with teachers. And I really liked what Courtney said, and trusting their expertise. teachers know what to do in the classroom. And I think teachers don't know what to do in a child's home. So that's where I think the parent that's their focus. Prepare that child for the school.
Great. Thank you, Marisa. And David, what role do you think parent voices should play in decisions about the schools and the school district?
Well, there is no better expert on the child than the parent. I think school districts, I particularly saw that in my experience with special education, that is underappreciated, and there is no one more affected other than the child than the parent by decisions that school districts make regarding the children, regarding the students. So I think that needs to be really emphasized. Parents need to be looked at as tools, as fonts of knowledge about the child. And I know it could have been a lot better with the school districts I dealt with regarding my experience as a parent of a special education student. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, now we're going to move on to question 7. And this one talks about proposal in the state legislature. So there's a proposal to move public school funding from property tax to income. The Tax Commission and the Vermont School Boards Association believe this reform is a more equitable way of funding public education. Do you support moving from a property tax to an income tax to fund public education? So the first to answer that will be Mary Beth. So do you support moving from a property tax to an income tax to fund public education?
That's a great question. I think my simple answer is that if once I would have a chance to study this, right? Like I just bragged about, we have to research, right? Yeah. Once I had a chance to study it, I'd have to say whatever ultimately leads to greater equity, right? That school districts aren't being funded according to local wealth, right? That our rural communities have an opportunity, if they're not as wealthy income-wise, that they would certainly have what they need, right? All those kids, that whatever the deciding formula is, results in a student's fate not being determined by where they live, right? So that they have the opportunity to be as successful as any student, whether it's Rutland or Burlington or Rochester, right? It doesn't matter. Whatever the formula is, it should result in the greatest amount of equity, not just from town to town, but from race to race, gender to gender, ability to non-ability, whatever it might be. Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And Courtney, do you support moving from a property tax to an income tax to fund public education?
I think it would be a win for the city. Maybe not the town, but I think our taxpayers in Rutland are struggling. And I think this would be something that could help better support our taxpayers and our school.
Thank you. And Marisa, what's your take on this issue? Do you support moving from a property tax to an income tax to fund public education?
I think similarly to Mary Beth, if we look to the experts who are doing research on this bill, and if they point to an income tax as creating a more equitable environment for our students, again, if it's back to the students and it betters our students, then I am for it.
Great, thank you. And David, what do you think about this proposal in the state legislature? Do you support moving from a property tax to an income tax to fund public education?
In theory, it'd be a wonderful idea. In practice, I don't see how it's going to work. At best, you're going to get a mix of the two. You'll have a greater you'll have a greater mix of income tax. But the thing about property tax is that you are taxing businesses and businesses that own a lot of property that you would not catch in an income tax, because we all know the news of how expert these companies can be at not paying any income tax as a corporation. So it's, to me, it'd be a wonderful idea, but pretty much pie in the sky. But along that line, I mentioned this before, the state hasn't even solved how the state discriminates by disability concerning funding for independent schools. And I know that this doesn't affect Rutland that much, but within the state, there is a system of independent schools, and the state allows them to exclude special education students entirely. And so if they can't figure that out, how are they going to figure out this mix between property tax and income tax? I don't see it.
Thank you, David. Sarah, what's your take on this proposal in the state legislature? Do you support moving from property tax to income tax to fund public schools?
I do think that it sounds like a very good idea, and anything that, you know, helps people out a little during COVID is nice. But I also want to be sure that, like my fellows have said, whatever the decision is, that it benefits the schools and that it makes sure that the schools are getting the funding that they need, because the schools are not a place where we need to cut away funding, because the schools are super important and they're the most important, and we need to make sure that they're getting proper funding. So that's really the most important aspect in that whole situation.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So now we're going to move on. Thank you, candidates, for your answers to our pre-arranged questions. We're now going to take some questions from the audience. Dan's been collecting them throughout the show. Time permitting, we'll ask as many as possible. And the same format applies. So just a heads up, Sarah, we're flipping the order. You're going to be first on this. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the audience questions. So we do have our first question ready. And again, Sarah will start us off with this. What additional steps beyond the school's existing policies should the school district take to protect students from bullying and violence? What additional steps? And
So
Sarah,
I think, sorry,
go ahead.
This is a big problem everywhere. And some of the most important things that I know might be a little lacking is we need to make sure that we have plenty of health professionals in the schools, because a lot of the things that go wrong are because children are dealing with trauma and they don't know how to deal with it, and they don't have people supporting them. So having health professionals that can help with their mental health and that are available for the children is very important to have. And I think teaching children about each other, actually teaching real knowledge about each other, will help the children be less violent and less angry towards each other. It will help them to understand each other better, which, that's just like the community. So I just think understanding knowledge and mental health are really big, important things to battle that situation.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Next, Mary Beth, same question. What additional steps beyond the existing policies should the school district take to prevent bullying and violence?
Yeah, great question for sure. If I had a magic wand with an unlimited budget, right? That would be lots of mental health, right? Exactly what Sarah said. I certainly funding priorities is the challenge of every single school board across the country. I do some presenting on bullying, particularly in sport, of course, but because that's my background is a little bit more in education through sport. But I think it still applies, and it's building a positive culture. So there is a long-term approach, right, of continuing to build a culture. And again, it's kind of what Sarah said a little bit, right? Building a culture of respect and students getting to know each other So that's a long-term solution, really working very, very hard to change the culture, right? Which takes time. But then also something more short-term. Again, looking at, I mean, I don't have eyes on the budget. I don't have eyes on where money is spent now. I know we do have a lot of money in special education, which is tremendously important. But looking at mental health, looking at counselors and school psychologists, and that is definitely across the board. I see it in the college kids, and I'm sure it's happening and I know it's happening at the younger ages too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Courtney, same question. What additional steps beyond the current ones and current policies should the school district take to protect students from bullying and violence?
It's really important to understand the driving force behind bullying and violence. I mean, in the emergency department, we see violence a lot in adults, and it's so important because there's a need that's not being met, and understanding what that need is. Is there support from the family that we need to help with? Is there support in the community that we need resources from the state to help with that? I don't know that I have a clear answer because it's such a complex issue, but I think it's really important for us to understand what's driving the bullying and helping support education behind that, maybe bias training, understanding. If we understand, we're less likely to judge and react and respond and have violence because we can understand what's going on and what's causing it. Thanks.
Thank you, Courtney. Marisa, what do you think should be done beyond existing policies to protect students from bullying and violence?
I think the bullying and violence we've been seeing in the schools is a reflection of systemic issues, which means that we cannot solve them in a day. And that should not be our goal. Our goal should shift to trying to survive through it and creating that balance between holding people accountable as well as supporting people and finding out, like what Courtney was saying, how we can fill that need. I think there are some incredible structures in place already. And in speaking with teachers on the ground, there have been improvements in the last 5-10 years, maybe 5 years. There's trainings, there's restorative practices, there's pods, there's counselors, there's locations to go that aren't just places where you're in trouble. They're places, people to check in with rather than get in trouble with. And I think that whole mind change in dealing with bullying and violence will be helpful in preventing them.
Great, thank you, Marisa. And David, what do you think can be done to protect students from bullying and violence?
Well, the existence of bullying is, to me, mainly an academic problem. I would not presume to tell teachers how to teach students to treat their fellows better than they do, any more than I would tell a teacher or suggest to a teacher how they should teach the Pythagorean theorem. I think that the teachers need to have mental health support as well, need to have better training as to learning how to head this off. Just a short story. My daughter attended the high school, and she went to the teacher and told the teacher that some students were bullying another student. The teacher ignored her. I told my daughter, go back to the teacher and tell her again. The teacher ignored her. So my daughter took it upon herself to go to the school resource officer, and the resource officer intervened. Sometimes teachers drop the ball, and we have to recognize that, and we have to be able to help the teachers do a better job.
Great, thank you, David. And sorry, I lost track of my spot here. Sarah, is that correct? Sorry, I'm doing this on the second time around on my paper, and I've already have my check marks here. Should I get everybody on that one?
Yeah, you got everybody.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I was just getting ahead of myself. I'd already turned to my next paper. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, second question. And Mary Beth, heads up. you're going to be first. So the second audience question is, what do you see as your role in developing curriculum? So Mary Beth, what do you see as your role in developing curriculum?
Great, thanks so much. I think that our roles as school board members, if elected to be, in developing curriculum, is to listen. Number one, listen to the teachers, listen to the administrators, right? And listen again to the stakeholders. But I think it really starts with relationship building. And it goes back to culture and having this, this mentality of admin versus teachers, and really working to be a part of the facilitation of stronger relationships, maybe where they need to be stronger, right, between admin and teachers. And it's our role to help build those relationships and cultivate them, and then to listen, and then to ultimately, I would imagine, vote on curriculum. I don't honestly know, but I do know in the development of it, it is to be really a good listener. Again, help us determine what is going to be the curriculum that absolutely aligns best with the mission of the district. And I think that's what a lot of things always have. I think that's what everything has to go back to, the mission of the district. What is our role? What are we trying to do? And then we make sure that we're doing that.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
And Courtney, same question for you. What do you see as your role in developing curriculum?
Well, honestly, I am not a curriculum expert, and I won't pretend to be as a board member. So I think it's really important, Mary Beth had said, to listen and to assure that the curriculum we do develop is evidence-based, includes, more diversity, maybe some more inclusion. I'd like to see more like culture come into our curriculum. But again, I am not an expert in this field, but I would like to advocate for what hearing the teachers and just assuring that everything we do is based on evidence or best practice.
Thank you, Courtney. Marisa, what do you see as a role of a school board member in developing curriculum?
That is not a school board's job, in my opinion. I think a school board candidate or commissioner should be providing resources, support, and encouraging teachers in their professional development as they adapt curriculum to fit the needs of their students. So I think ultimately developing curriculum is the role of the teacher.
Great. Thank you, Marisa. And David, what do you see as a school board member's role in relation to developing curriculum?
I was so afraid I was going to be the only one. Yeah, that's not my job. I would no more tell a teacher how to develop curriculum than I would tell the person running the boiler how to turn the dials. That if I have a high school education and no idea. Is the curriculum not developed enough? I mean, perhaps in technical areas, perhaps in computers change from day to day. So I'm sure that needs to be tweaked on a constant basis. But as far as I know, the basics of mathematics has not changed in a real long time. English, the same, literature, the same. So, literature could probably be expanded as to the scope of it. But again, not my job.
Great. Thank you, David. And Sarah, what do you see as a school board member's role in developing curriculum?
This is a very good question. And it's very important. I do agree that maybe not our role as school board commissioners to do the curriculum or to have a lot of say in what the curriculum is, but I do think we should be holding accountable the curriculum, making sure that it's up to date, that it's factual, that it's based in science, based in real facts, based in real world history, and cultural, like lots of culture in it. We should be learning about a lot of different things, not just how the white people got New England. So, just making sure that it's broad and that it's real and that it's actual good facts that we're teaching the kids. I think that's our role, just to be a checkpoint, like making sure that it's correct and helpful.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. All right, now we have another question from the audience. And the question is, and I'll just give you guys a heads up for who will be starting it, and this will be Courtney starting this one off. How would you, as a school board member, act to buffer the negative effects of federal or state laws that would impede the ability for teachers to educate? So again, the question, and starting off will be Courtney. How would you as a school board member act to buffer the negative effects of federal or state laws that would impede the ability for teachers to educate students?
That sounds like it'd be a really hard thing to do. While we can't control what the federal government or the state puts onto our teachers, I would always be there to support and listen to what the teachers have to say, and advocate for them in any way I could. As I'm not a teacher or an educator, just being able to listen and hear what their needs are, and in any way that I can support as a board member, I would always be willing to do that.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Next, Marisa. How would you as a school board member act to buffer any negative effects of federal or state laws that could impede teachers' ability to teach?
I think this is a really important question. And as a school board member, I would like to take the brunt of any negative effects of any of those changes, take the brunt of any criticism. Our teachers are already dealing with too much. They do not need this on their plates if this comes to fruition. I think that we as school board members should be advocating and speaking up in spaces where we can create change. I know that at least at the state level, school boards work together to help with legislatures, and we can be doing that and be speaking up in support of our teachers so that they can educate our students.
Thank you, Marisa. David, what do you think? How would you be able to act to buffer any negative effects of federal or state legislation?
Oh, that is really quite a question. The premise of it, I reject completely. I think that one of the greatest things that have ever happened to public education has been the development of civil rights law over the years. I'm not that familiar with how states negatively impact the education, but no, I reject it. I remember from my American history the concept of interposition and nullification. That's where the lower governments decide that they're not going to follow the mandates of the higher levels of government. No. Count me out. I don't play that.
Thank you, Dave. Sarah, what is your take on this idea? How could you as a school board member act to buffer any negative effects of federal or state laws that would impede teachers' ability to teach?
I think this is a really important question, and it's a very important job for the school board. We're there, and I firmly believe this, as advocates for the teachers and for the students. And I believe if there's any kind of flack that's coming from some legislation, I think it was Marissa said, we are the buffers. We need to take that and deal with that so the teachers don't have to. And we need to, and if we can affect legislation, I think we should do that, because we have the time to do that. We're not teaching the kids. We're not in the schools with the kids. We have the time to go and help persuade the legislature to make the laws, better for the schools, not worse. So I really think that we're kind of like a wall for the teachers, that we can protect them from negativity and just try to work with them and do the best job for them that we can.
Thank you, Sarah. Mary Beth, how do you think you could work to buffer the negative effects of federal or state laws that would impede teachers' ability to educate the students?
Another great question. Sarah, you stole my word. Advocate, right? So it's immediately what I wrote down when the question was asked. So I think that it is so important for the school board to not just be on the same team as the teachers, but to be their be their battle line. I don't like the word battle though. I try not to use that word except when I'm doing soccer drills. But I think advocating for them, being their voice, really working, like my colleagues have said, to change laws if we can, legislate and advocate for and lobby for things to be different. I know that's a really impossible an impossible task, but I think the teachers need to feel supported. It is harder now than ever to teach. That is, I think no one would argue with that statement. It is harder now than ever to teach. And so what teachers need and what students need are their advocates. And that's why I'm running. I want to be teachers advocates. I want to be students advocates.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And as a teacher, I agree with you. It is the hardest time to teach right now. So we have a new question from the audience. This is for the first one answering this question will be Marisa. So just as a heads up, how can the school board work to facilitate a mutually beneficial relationship between teachers, staff, and administrators? One that will in turn benefit all students. So again, Marisa, how can the school board work to facilitate a mutually beneficial relationship between teachers, staff, and administrators that in turn benefits all students?
This is quite the question. I think that ultimately we have to go back to the fact that we are all working together for our students. And it's hard to get to the place where you have a mutually beneficial relationship between so many different parties. But I think key components of that relationship are clear communication and expectations and roles, and an environment of trust and support. We've got to be able to trust each other, have each other's backs, and show up for each other.
Thank you, Marisa. David, your turn. How can the school board work to facilitate a mutually beneficial relationship between teachers, staff, and administrators that also benefit students?
Interesting question. We do that by doing our jobs efficiently and openly. You know, are there problems between administration and teachers? Well, maybe we can affect this. Maybe we can do something to affect that positively, and maybe we can't. We have limitations. We can only do our jobs, and beyond that, I think it's pie in the sky to think that we can do a whole lot more.
Thank you, David. Sarah, same question. How can school board work to facilitate a mutually beneficial relationship between teachers, staff, and administrators that in turn benefit students?
Yes, I think this is a very important question. And I think Marisa is reading my notes because she took my word. I was thinking trust. Trust is very important. And the way we get trust is by talking and listening and actually going to people and talking to them, like going to the teachers where they're working and talking to them and talking to the students and talking to the administrators and understanding where they're coming from. I mean, we've said it before, but it all boils down to the same thing. It's communication, it's clear communication, it's trusting each other by knowing each other. And I think when you feel safe with a person, then you're more likely to let down your guard and you're less likely to get into arguments and to get into fisticuffs and sort of thing. So it's really a boots on the ground kind of thing for me. Just getting out there and talking to people and learning about them and learning about their struggles and how we can help.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Next is Mary Beth. Mary Beth, how can the school board work to facilitate mutually beneficial relationships between teachers and staff and administrators that also support students?
Sure. Great question. I do think the key word in that question is relationships, right? And so focusing on relationship building is really very important. And I do think some of my fellow candidates here have stolen my notes. Communication. Communication is the key to life, is it not? I tell that to my students all the time. Properly communicating in your personal life, properly communicating in your professional life is absolutely essential. And so really opening up the lines of communication, and exactly what Sarah said, going to the schools, going there, listening, not making sure that if elected as a school board member, no one is afraid to talk to me, that they feel that I'm actually listening, and that I'm there to advocate on their behalf, and that the administrators feel comfortable talking to me because they see us as this party, really this neutral party that's really there to help them come together and really build their relationship. Because the stronger their relationships, of course, which is why the question was asked, the stronger the relationships between the teachers and the staff and the administrators, the better the culture in the school, and thus the better the learning for the students.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
Yeah, sure thing.
And finally, Courtney, how could you, if you were on the school board, work to facilitate a mutually beneficial relationship between teachers, staff, and administrators that will in turn benefit students?
I think understanding that we all have the same goal, right, is to provide a successful, safe environment for our kids to learn. And so I think just always keeping in mind that that's what we all want. And we all have different ways of getting there because we all have different roles and different responsibilities. It's so important that we keep that in mind. And to everyone else has already kind of said it, but to communicate and to set boundaries with each other and to just be clear about how we can support the kids, how we can support the teachers to support the kids, how we can support the administration so that they can support the teachers and supporting the children. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the kids. And so how can we work together to provide the best that we can for the kids to learn?
Great. Thank you, Courtney. And we have come to our last question of the evening. And the first one to answer this will be David. And the question is, what are your financial priorities for the school district? Are there areas of the budget where you refuse to make cuts? So again, financial priorities, and are there areas of the budget where you would not make any cuts at all? David.
I'm glad we finally got around to that. First off, I want to thank the outgoing, or the last school board with the present budget. It's up only 3%, which is quite remarkable in this age of inflation, where I just paid $5 for a cabbage the other day. And we have to recognize $19,000 a year to educate a student. That is the take-home pay of a person making minimum wage. So we have to be aware totally of this, that you know, and 80% of the budget is for employee compensation, and that's only up 1.6% in a year. That is remarkable. That you know, that this apparently was accepted on both sides. High praise to the outgoing school board. Do I have any priorities as to cutting or expanding? No, I don't. If we can do next year, if we could do next year what this last school board has done, we will count ourselves lucky. One comment I have about special education, the Rutland Herald article said that special education was a major driver for the 3% increase in the budget. The special education takes up less than 2.6% of the total. So I don't see how that's a major driver. But also I have to question, if special education is supposed to be so integrated into the regular education, how do you parse out how much you're spending on regular education and special education?
David,
I would like to take.
Sorry to cut you off.
That's
there,
all right.
This time. Thank you. All right, moving along. Sarah, what are your financial priorities for the school district? And are there any areas that you would refuse to cut?
Thank you. That's a very important question. I absolutely refuse to cut teacher salaries. Teachers are the only thing that make the school run. I mean, without the teachers, you don't have a school. And they spend all day with our children, and they spend their entire lives teaching our children. And everything in their life is surrounded around teaching our children, and they do not get paid enough. And I will fight tooth and nail to get the teachers as much payment as I can, and it still won't be enough. So that is, I will die on that hill. Paying teachers is my big thing. So.
Great. Thank you very much, Sarah. Again, as a teacher, we all appreciate that, even though I'm in a different district. Mary Beth, same question. What are your financial priorities for the school district? And is there any area that you would say no go on cutting?
Yeah, thanks. Great questions. Huge money talks, right? For sure. Money talks. So my two non-negotiables, student wellness, anything that affects student wellness, 100%, always the first priority. And also non-negotiable teacher salaries, no doubt. I think the priority has got to be with the impact makers, and the impact makers are teachers and support staff. Our paras do not make enough money. They do not make enough money with what they do every single day. It is incredible. So, and that's related to student wellness, teacher salaries, paras, student wellness has got to be the priority, and the non-negotiable, like I said. So, there's a lot that goes into that. Like I said, the magic wand of more school psychologists that don't exist. At Castleton, we launched a school psychology program a number of years ago, and we can't get people to go there and take that, and become enrolled. It's like, we have such a need, you'll get a job if you do this program. So anyway, that's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And Courtney, again, what are your financial priorities for the district? And are there any areas that you would absolutely refuse to cut?
To echo off my colleagues here, the thought of cutting a budget for anything that's going to support our kids just kind of breaks my heart. I hate to think of having to pull away a resource from our kids, or certainly our teachers, because without quality teachers, without them being compensated appropriately for all the hard work that they do, we're not going to have successful students. So kind of to echo off what everyone else has already said, I can't imagine taking away something from our schools, especially from our teachers. They're the cornerstone to everything that we're doing.
Thank you, Courtney. And Marisa, what are your financial priorities for the district? And are there any areas that you would say absolutely cannot be cut?
I think fellow candidates have spoken very well. Student wellness, as Mary Beth said, anything that touches students, I think those resources are valuable. Everything that they do and need on a day-to-day basis, anywhere from lunches to heat to janitor staff to everything goes, there's so much that goes into a school day that sets a kid up for success. So everything that touches a student's day deserves a spot in our budget. And first and foremost, faculty and staff salaries. And I think on the ground, I think we've done a lot of administrative pay increases throughout the years. And I think that our teachers deserve some steps. Our teachers deserve more than just an increase in living pay. Like, we are not getting paid enough as educators. And as we spoke earlier, we provide so many services to our community, but we don't pay teachers accordingly. And I know that that's not a problem just for Rutland, and that's not a problem just for Vermont. That's another systemic problem, but that's something that I would refuse to cut.
Great. Thank you so much, Marisa. And thanks to all of you candidates for not only just being here and answering questions tonight, but thank you for being willing to serve. This is a very important job that serves many students, and it's an extra effort on your part. So thank you for being willing to do that. And we've actually come to the end of our forum. So thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
And turn it over to Mia.
Michelle. Thank you so much for for moderating. What a lovely moderator we had. Thank you for keeping up and repeating the questions. I mean, we got a lot done in this hour and a half together. And thank you to our candidates, all of you, for your courage to step up and serve your community and to come here, as Michelle said, and join us in these important discussions and let the community know how you feel about our schools. So thank you. And thank you again, Michelle. I want to thank everybody here in attendance as well. And as the Education Justice Organizer for Rights and Democracy, we believe that all of our Vermont youth deserve culturally responsive and fact-based curricula, equitable access to educational resources, and a safe and supportive school environment. But we have a long way to go. If you're interested in hearing and joining in this fight and for this vision, please sign our petition. I'll put it in the link before you go. And also, if you want to hear our candidates again, we will be submitting this recording over to PEG TV, who has assured us that they will be airing this. So tell all the voters to get out there on March 1st and vote and do the research first. Thank you all so much for coming. We've had a delightful evening. Thank you again, Michelle.
You're very welcome.
Bye, everybody.
you.
Thank you, Mia. Thanks, you
Good night,
guys.
everyone.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.